Happy Tuesday. I forgot what day it was. Had to double check. But happy Tuesday. Welcome back to another episode. It's been a busy morning already. Welcome back to another episode of Go Find Yourself. JD Gagnon here. And my good friend, Andy Boyan. How you doing?
Good to be back. Thank you for having me. I'm doing very, very well and slightly less of a rush than I was last week. I ran home from the gym last week and sat down pouring sweat and got ready. This time I got a little more time to chill. We're all a little more relaxed. And so that's nice.
No one even knew that you came home from the gym. You hit it well. You weren't even out of breath or anything. We got a bunch of stuff to talk about today. We're going to talk a lot about Bitcoin mining and mining in general, proof of work, proof of stake. We're going to talk a little bit about kind of advancements in Bitcoin mining, which is kind of interesting. Hydro-cooled, nuclear powered, a few other things that are kind of driving the consciousness at the moment. We're going to talk a little bit about some regulation, some Digital Asset Anti-Money Laundering Act that was proposed by Elizabeth Warren, who I'm probably her least. I'm her least likely fan, I guess, is how to say it. But 5 other co-sponsors have piled on to this Warren bill, so we'll have to see. We'll talk a little bit about that, and then I think we'll talk about a pretty incredible liquidation caused by Solana. And lastly, maybe not lastly, we might get into this early. We're going to talk a little bit of meme coin, a little bit of speculation, and Andy is going to give us his predictions for 2024.
I got a couple.
Hopefully at the end of the call. And then since he's always right, take him to the bank. Financial advice, the whole thing.
Ride that horse.
Yeah. We're a live show Monday to Friday, 12:30 p.m. Eastern. If you can't tell by the dumb shit that I say, well, now you know. It's a live show every day. We're always here. Like, share, subscribe. Help us get the word out. Yeah, let's freaking go, man. Oh, we're back and I'm still dancing. All right, let's just jump right into it. We don't need a whole lot of setup other than how you feeling about the market. Is it a breath of fresh air? Is it relief? Is it not enough yet? Where are you at?
It's not enough yet. It is still relief, but that just speaks to how much it wasn't enough before because it was so bad for so long.
Yeah.
That even now where there's going to be, you always say froth, but volatility and uncertainty and what is, what's the narrative? But it has changed. The attitude in the industry has changed from how are we going to make it? That was the story, is how are we going to get through this? And now it's how am I going to spread myself thin to make sure I know about everything that's going on? Because now I've got to be on Avalanche and Solana and the ZK Sync and now I need to know ordinals and I need to know about Bitcoin again all of a sudden, and it's about that sort of revving up. So it's still the frantic panic that it always is. It never stops, but it's a very different kind of frantic panic.
Well, I mean, I for one am feeling good about it. Of course, I'm cautiously optimistic because we've talked about this a lot on the pod in the last little bit. I personally believe that it's not just I believe, it's obvious, I think, in fact, that this is driven almost entirely by speculation about ETF approvals, interest rate cuts in Q1, Q2, probably Q2 is what the expectation is. Some people think Q1. If any of those things don't happen, we could see an abrupt end to this excitement. I hope that's not the case. I hope that risk is being priced in. But be careful. Don't all in. Don't mortgage your house. Risk management, prudence, diversification.
You don't have to make it on one cycle like that. I think I saw somebody post this, and you can make a lot more financially for yourself and freedom with what you want to do with your life over time. And maybe that means taking a little bit more time, but so few people win it all by betting on black and just, spinning the roulette wheel. And even if that's the crypto casino, it's incredibly risky, as we'll see in some of the, liquidation stories a little bit later today. But here's my counter to, is it all being driven on speculation? I think we're going to see this in a lot of the stories. It's not just speculation. It's speculation of an ETF and speculation of the halvening and sound money for Bitcoin, and speculation of, well, Bitcoin actually has a good use case, which is store of value that's not centrally controlled by a government and by banks. And so it's not just this, oh, we're all gonna make it and Bitcoin's going up, number go up. It's number go up because, well, now there's real use cases and buy-in from a lot more people.
Yeah. I love the counter argument. I hope you're correct, which often you are. So I guess we'll have to see. I think no matter what, it's exciting. I'm not going to poo-poo or FUD on some positive momentum. Honestly, I think the space and everybody in it, users, holders, builders, everybody, I think deserved a little bit of relief here from the constant FUD. So I, for one, am excited heading into the end of the year. I thought I was going to be more nervous about having so much momentum and then having like a year or a month break, essentially. I thought I was going to be more nervous about it, but I actually think it's a breath of fresh air. We were talking in the green room before the green room. We were talking before the pod started. Technically, my room is green right now. Talking about how for once you can do so without panicking. Possibly users, builders, holders, like you've just got a little bit of relief and you can actually go and reset and hit 24 hard. Okay. We're going to talk a lot more about that as time goes on here. But first, let's talk about some Bitcoin mining. Now, the reason I wanted to open with that kind of introduction around, market conditions and what's happening. I think one of the other very prevailing narratives right now is just mining and Bitcoin in general, and how institutions and infrastructure participants can meaningfully participate in the upside, the security, the decentralization of Bitcoin. And then with the emergence of Bitcoin's popularity, generally speaking, things like this are becoming more and more common. So Riot Platforms just purchased almost 67,000 mining rigs from MicroBT for $300 million, almost $300 million. It's a lot of mining rigs. And with the halving coming and potentially some difficulties changing over the next little bit, we'll have to see if the profit is where they're expecting it to be. But all the people that I know that are in the mining business, with some of the advancements in the technology and with some of the, the increase in volumes and excitement around the space, I mean, the potential is still huge and it's worth the investment. I know you spent some time once upon a time participating with some mining, but how do you feel about this one? Do you think there's more to this? Is it just big companies making distressed moves, or do you think this is really
This sounds like big companies making not distressed for them. I think it's them taking opportunities of maybe distressed assets or
right.
Bulk orders where everybody has been wondering, or where's our income going to come from? And so when you have the opportunity to make a big order, yeah, you're going to go for it. And some of the other stories echo that as well. Coming up is we're seeing big players double down on their bets, and it's not just to flip a quarter and hope it comes up your way. It's because all of the evidence is pointing towards this historical halvening, whatever the cycle is, whatever it looks like, something will impact the price of Bitcoin, and people are making big bets on that. And like, it's not just mining. I love mining. I think it's really interesting. And we'll talk a bit more about it. But even like Sailor being in the black, right? MicroStrategy is now in profit from their Bitcoin, and they've got this huge chunk. Those are stories that really get out and that start to speak to people. And so now, okay, I want exposure to Bitcoin. Well, now you can buy Riot stock. And why would you? Because Bitcoin's coming up, and if you believe in this narrative a little bit, and you have access to a publicly traded company, like all of those factors line up in a way that they haven't been able to in the past.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I haven't researched recently what the break-even price for cost of mining versus price of Bitcoin is, but I have to suspect that we're comfortably over it now. I think it was sub 20, sub 15, actually, I think is where people really started having issues there. We're going to move a little bit, same topic, but just move to a different area. Phoenix Group Mining has invested heavily with a producer called What's Miner in, again, new mining equipment, $380 million. And it includes $136 million worth of hydro cooling mining equipment. And I think this is, to me, what's kind of interesting also. It's not just more of the same. It's meaningful advancements in technology to make these much more efficient for miners and much more cost effective. Do you think we're seeing enough innovation in the mining space?
The innovation is there. It's a matter of how quickly some of the efficiency and environmental stuff gets adopted. Because I'm in the industry and I pay close attention to Bitcoin mining environmental opportunities. There's some actually really strong use cases for Bitcoin mining to offset environmental costs that are extremely profitable and community sourced and decentralized and like really cool, flare offs and things like that. But to what extent are those things profitable enough compared to just cranking out a hydro cooler and like jacking up the power in the middle of, UAE where you're just burning oil? Like I don't know the economics around that.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like electric vehicles, right? Okay, they're more efficient at scale, but it's going to take a long time to get them to scale. We're going to end up kind of doing some damage to the environment and like spend a lot of money to get there.
Yeah.
But we've kind of agreed as a world that's probably a necessary step we need to figure out. What do you do? The world is complex. So I love the expansion. And I love these efficiency things. We'll see if they trickle down to actual impact on the other efficiency elements.
What I thought was interesting is they're slated to deliver this, in the first half of 24. So that means like that's a pretty sizable order, $400 million almost, to have all of that technology ready and deployed inside of 6 months is kind of nuts. Like I'm sure this deal was in the works for some time before this announcement. It's not like they just all of a sudden decided this the other day. But what else was interesting is Phoenix also did an IPO on the heels of this deal, and it was oversubscribed by 33 times. They did their IPO and raised almost $400 million from it. So, I mean, that more than pays for obviously the investment in the rigs and gives them a pretty sizable war chest to keep building. So I think both.
Well, there's still a lot of uncertainty around mining. Like there's plenty of regimes globally that are open to it, but to set up a mining center at scale across multiple locations, like the data center and OPSEC and like all that stuff is really, really expensive. You got to have some serious talent to bring in, and the cost of all of the regulatory and red tape and all that across multiple different countries. So it's like there are major costs to that.
Yeah.
So it should be offset by the investment and the Bitcoin and all that stuff. It makes sense as a business model, but it's not like, setting up a rig at home by any means, right? It's a scale business.
Yeah. It's a really interesting, it's a really interesting operation when you see it at scale. It's kind of crazy.
You've been paying more attention to news. So I will rock through a couple more of these Bitcoin mining ones, but here's a question that this makes me think of is during the, I almost said off season, during the bear market, do you remember stories of major mining companies closing down, shutting down?
Yeah.
So that happens. That happens like every bear cycle it's not worth the price. These ones shut down and they get absorbed by the larger ones. And so we actually have this kind of progressive centralization of mining over time, which is concerning. But what's different about these stories is not, another one shut down. It's not sustainable. It's the opposite. There's investment and there's growth and everyone's getting ready for this next major new narrative, major new narratives.
A lot of it has to do with like proper financial modeling and expectations and, like just being objective in making these decisions. What I think happens, and is always the case, we talk about this a lot on the pod. It's no different with respect to mining. FOMO is real. Like by the time that everybody you see and talk to is fired up about something, there's a pretty good chance that like it's already kind of a bit of a bubble, and so I think what happens is when the money is flowing like crazy in the space, everybody's thinking, how do I diversify into infrastructure? right? Everybody wants infrastructure, hardware, tangible assets. And they're willing to invest in these things at exorbitant prices. And they're willing to buy the hardware at ridiculously inflated retail prices because everybody and their dog wants them. Look at NVIDIA and their chips for AI. I mean, anyways, so I think we're going to see more of that again this cycle, unfortunately, but I like to see these large participants, make big moves.
2024 predictions. Here we go.
Let's go, baby. All right. Hive Digital. Do you know anything about this one?
Excuse me. I read the brief. These are all kind of the same. Honestly, it's strategic buys of these miners, and they're already profitable in some of these cases, and that industry is not going anywhere. To me, like the story, there's the things we talked about, but then also the thing we kind of want to hit on is Bitcoin is still daddy. Like the corn still kind of runs the show. It's the ultimate meme coin. It has multiple narratives that people know what it is and how it works. It's got the immaculate founder. Like it's insane. It really is cool. And all the stuff that's going on in Bitcoin, in core development and all that stuff right now with Lightning and with ordinals and like all that debate, nobody gives a crap about it, right? Broadly, because what they care about is number go up and like, is this an actual investment vehicle? And do people care about this? Is there a use case? And that is now what's hitting the mainstream. And so the rest of the other stuff that's going on, there's a ton of money now because of that that's now going on to this other stuff, these other use cases, these really interesting sorts of things. So that's what these all tell the same story to me of like Bitcoin is still king. We'll see if it trickles down. It probably will financially, but memetically, I don't know. We'll see.
I guess we'll see. I just think this is it's exciting. It's nice to report on some positive news, people making positive investments as opposed to divestments and closing down areas of their business. It's a very noticeable shift, I think, in energy and in momentum, which is very exciting. Okay, we've talked a lot about tooling and people buying more machines and getting more excited about Bitcoin. But do you think with the halving and some of the other kind of complexities being introduced into Bitcoin, and it's becoming increasingly less likely that you can run a mining rig in your closet or in your office, or it's becoming a lot more specialized. Do you think that there's going to be a quasi survival of the fittest, like the larger companies with the bigger war chests are just going to absorb, as we're kind of seeing the less efficient, smaller operations? Is that kind of where we're at? And do you think that the halving, based on what's happened in previous halvings, do you think that's going to have a meaningful impact on survival of some of these mining operations?
Absolutely. It's going to get more difficult to mine. And so unless you've got the investment and the efficiency, you're not going to be able to keep up. And one of the things you didn't mention, but it's also in that, is a regulatory landscape. If you were starting a mining company right now, would you rather start it in the US or in El Salvador? One of those companies, right? Like, there's so much opportunity here. So people want to do it because America's like, there's investment and there's money and there's so many natural resources. You can go to Texas and use flare-offs and do this cool environmental stuff. But like, it's so much greater of a lift. And the political environment is not clear at all about like what that's going to look like and how to approach it. And even if it was friendly, like in the States, now we know like it's all just a risk. Like who knows if that's actually going to stay long term. And so places that have regulatory friendships and good connections there and those efficiencies, that I think we'll see that. And we'll continue to see that. Through the halving, for sure.
I think if I was trying to assess the landscape, this is not financial advice, it's just my own opinion. If I was trying to assess the landscape and say, hey, I wanted some exposure to some mining operations because I think, there's a long-term viability in that space and the profit is comfortable and predictable, generally speaking, quasi-predictable. The first groups that I would remove are ones that haven't upgraded any of their infrastructure hardware in quite some time. Those are the ones that are probably, there's certain institutions that have been constantly swapping out and upgrading rigs. There's other ones that made a big investment, let it buck, and are going, holy shit, we can't get any more investment currently in market conditions. So we're going to hope for the best. That would be the first place I'd look. Who's been up to date with their equipment? Who's added capacity? Who's added efficiencies and cost saving measures, because that's what it comes down to. It comes down to the, fractions of a dollar, fractions of a cent, tens or hundreds of millions of times, and all of a sudden it's a sizable differentiation. Do you think, is that how you would assess it too, or where would you look to see who you think?
Yeah, no, absolutely. But one of the things that makes me excited about that is when we talk about the spaces maturing. So like I've been in since 2017, 6-ish years, and we say the industry is maturing. What that means is people from more traditional backgrounds that have kick-ass experience and are experts in accounting and supply chain and all the boring crap that people don't get into crypto for, we can now recruit them and say, come be smart and help me run an efficient business so we can do accurate modeling. And it's interesting enough, and it's legitimate at scale too. Yeah, absolutely. And that's like when the industry is maturing, that's what I'm talking about is, okay, now we can set higher bars. We still have our low bars because it's still crypto, but the bars do get higher. And so we as an industry can accelerate, which opens the doors for way more use cases and way more money to come in and way more interest and way more builders and developers and blah, 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 all that stuff.
I mean,
so,
it's often a clash of philosophies, right? There's some people that see the world as, crypto has to maintain its kind of cult-ish philosophy, so to speak, and privacy and kind of you're the renegades, you're the counter
Punks,
to society. There's a great deal of people still in the space that are holding on to that, and then there's a great deal of people on the other end of the spectrum that are saying, you know what, incumbents are going to win no matter what we do, so move over, let them come. My thought here is it's nice to see, and what I think we're going to see is a hybrid. And I've been saying this for years. I don't think there's going to be DeFi or TradFi that wins. I think it's going to be, very much a combination. But in order to get there, again, we have to be willing to compromise a little bit on some of our polarizing philosophies. And what I mean there is, in order for efficiencies to be found and for, certain people, as you were saying, CPAs or really sophisticated risk managers. We can't hire we can't hire those guys for what they're worth and meaningfully incentivize them at the protocol level currently. It's too small and they're too expensive. But when you get these large players investing $500 million in infrastructure, you're darn right that they could afford and need some of these experts, which draws a lot of these experts from other fields into the space. And that's really, I think, where we get that 0 to 1. So
really you and I agree, and we know we agree on a hybrid. It's got to be a hybrid. But I think there's room for both total punks and anarchists who want to just give the finger to everybody and everybody else. And they don't have to play in the same sandbox.
Right.
And there's still room. And what's really exciting to me as a punk is, okay, there's still money and opportunity and builders and teams and community members that want to try weird stuff. And there's room for that where there wasn't before. If you wanted to try weird stuff, you had to do a Kickstarter and, raise $5,000 and hope. No. Now you can do something really meaningful, not at scale of millions of people necessarily, but at a couple thousand. And that's really meaningful because it's real money now. And it's the magic internet beans now have these values and this associated. And so you can do real experiments in a way that you couldn't. But there's also room because there is enough interest for Citibank to come in and JP Morgan, as much as Jamie Dimon craps on it, like they're still building, crypto. There's room for all of these under the tent.
Yeah. There's so much talk. I totally agree with you. I really think that, it's not about fighting each other for spots on the pie. The pie invariably is just going to grow. And the more collaborative and supportive we can be of, adjacent or arm's length or even unrelated protocols and concepts, I think is great as a space. It's one of the things I love is that there's this collaborative kind of spirit in crypto is still there from the builder's perspective. Like we have incredible relationships with what from the outside might seem like competitive products, but in fact, we don't see it that way. We see it as collaborative products, which is really interesting. But all of this being said, there's a lot of hype around something when you get these types of articles that are essentially gaslighting or what did you call it? A satire. It's essentially a satire.
Parody. It's satire.
Parody,
It's not
yeah.
a real article.
So
But it got me at first because I was reading it like, this is insane. No, this can't.
Bitcoin is consuming too much air, and the air consumption could sustain dinks, dual income, no kids, which is a giant like thumbing your nose in the article. Anyways, I just wanted to post this up here because I think
thank you.
What we see and what we've seen and what we've been reporting on is hyperbole to the downside. Everybody's focused so much during a bear market on the FUD, all the problems, all the things that may at some point down the road become a problem. We're already worrying about it. And now, when things are a little bit more exciting and there's more positive momentum and narrative, you get these types of articles, which I think are kind of fun. Satire is always, I prefer satire. I think
it's true. I'll take it. I saw it was an opinion piece and I was like, wait, is somebody really up this? Oh, okay, cool.
Just kidding.
It got me.
Okay, so for the last few minutes of the show today, I think we can talk a little bit about this liquidation, and then maybe we'll go in and talk about a meme coin and get your predictions. Does that sound fair?
Yeah, well, so I'm excited about what's been happening on Solana and on Avalanche and a number of other places. Scroll ZK is starting to really kick up, ZK Sync as well. There's so much activity on these alt L1s and these L2s that people are really, the core community is really taking notice and participating. And if anybody was sidelined, they're putting some skrill in the game again. And Solana kind of kicked it off with the Jito airdrop that airdropped some significant value to people and got people really excited. And now that's kind of going around. Now, of course, it does lead in volatility to stories like this. So what is the story? I didn't actually catch the full details.
What's hilarious, not about this liquidation, of course, but pretty much everybody that you could have talked to in the last year would have said, I don't know if alt L1s are coming back. Like it seems to be, and it seemed to be the ETH show again. ETH and L2s and what I call L3s, which are more L2s building on the same stack as another L2, like Base and the Kraken deployment, if it ever happens. I mean, I just think that it's been surprising to many because they've been sleeping on these ecosystems. And I thought it was really exciting to see that a lot of these L1s are getting their moment. To jump back into the spotlight. Now, this Jito thing was really cool. Again, words of caution here. Nothing against Jito. Great team. Their product is essentially exactly the same as one we built 3 years ago. Again, nothing against them. I think they're a great team doing great things. And that airdrop skyrocketed them to 7 billion FDV. Like fully, they were almost worth as much as Solana. The whole ecosystem, which I thought was interesting. But again, these are the things that I want to caution people of when everything goes gangbusters, nothing ever goes straight up, ever. So be careful. You got to be prudent, as evidenced by this puppy. A fairly sizable liquidation based on people levering up on Solana going up, probably levering up way too late. And then the price going down, and somebody got liquidated for $20 million. That's money gone. Poof, gone.
I could use it. I don't know why you need leverage now. We're just starting. How can you be in this space and like be paying close enough attention to like be in the airdrop conversation and then get anyways? But hey, people do what they are going to do. I don't understand why you need leverage, but we're leveraged just being in here. It's already like leveraged by being associated with crypto. I took the reputation hit, Alts are already a leverage bet on the ecosystem.
The ecosystems are a leverage bet on Bitcoin. We're already pretty leverage heavy. I was on an AMA this morning, and one of the other panelists was telling us about a product that they've built that has 1,000x leverage for perps decks. And although that's cool, it's cool on the surface to have 1,000x. I mean, I'm alarmed when people use 10x leverage. 100x, way pushing it. You won't find that on any regulated venues at all because it's obnoxiously risky.
Yeah.
And then you see places like BitMEX who are offering 500x leverage. As we know, that was disastrous for almost anybody that played on BitMEX. And now we're seeing, I don't think that's the answer. More leverage to me is not the answer, in particular on a perps exchange, because it's not settled with any of the real underliers. It's just numbers on a screen, generally speaking. So anyways, hopefully people can manage their risk a little bit better going into this hype cycle. But I guess what I was really trying to say here is that, be careful and exercise appropriate risk management. But at the same time, I mean, pay attention to what's going on in some of these ecosystems. Cosmos, Polkadot. There's many. Linea is happening. Avalanche is making moves. Flare. There's a lot of different ecosystems that are doing some pretty cool stuff right now. And don't sleep on them just because they're not ETH or they're not Eigenlayer, which actually I was starting to drink that Kool-Aid that the only thing that was going to matter this cycle was ETH and Eigenlayer, because that's all anybody was willing to talk about in the last few months.
Yeah. Our bags were down. Don't want to talk your bag when the prices are down and there's nothing but bad news. And teams didn't want to share all their good news because you don't want to just share one piece of good news into the void too. But when the market starts turning around and then all you get is Bitcoin this, Bitcoin that, investment this, investment that, now it's time to release. And so I think there's some of that press hype cycle as well. Here's a little piece of advice though. There's a ton going on. As a maturing industry, when I say you, I mean me. I'm talking to myself really. I can't catch everything. I'm good at catching some things. And so when something pops and you missed it, that's okay. The way this works, markets go up and they go down, and it's diverse, and there's a lot of founders and builders and opportunities. You don't have to rush and be the last one in the door, which I've done that plenty of times myself and had to learn that lesson the hard way. But just be thoughtful and be careful. If you DYOR, do your own research, you will find, and talk to people, you will find an early project. And you will find this is really cool. And this team, they care and they're doing something interesting. So those are out there. You don't have to spread yourself so thin that you miss everything. You can just find what you're good at.
It's inevitable you're going to miss things. It's inevitable you're going to invest in the wrong things. And you need to make it so that on average, you end up winning more than you lose with those realities. You're not ever going to have perfect information. If you did, there would be no profit in it. So you're going to have an asymmetry of information, what you can gather from the community and the builders and the protocol. And then you got to make some assumptions. And, again, don't be afraid of missing the one thing. There's not just one thing that's going to run this cycle. There's going to be many. Maybe you miss the one that goes from the Shiba Inu of this cycle that goes up to 50 billion in market cap and some guys got lucky. Yeah, maybe you might miss that one, but you're going to catch 10 other ones that, in the end, you're going to be much better off. So
we should tell those stories, stuff we missed. Because I missed on some, I missed on Bored Apes. I had a really early opportunity in Bored Apes, and another guy in the chat bought 100 of them, and I just was like, stupid. I don't get it. You're gonna miss, and that's okay. It's just part of the deal. So.
I miss way more than I win, and we still do okay. So I mean, I think that's the answer. Is I'm okay missing some good opportunities as long as I make high conviction bets, ones that I really believe in what they're doing and the people. The community. I mean, that's where I think that's where the money's made. You find people that you believe in, products that you believe in. You should believe in it, not just because somebody told you on crypto Twitter that you should buy some nonsense project. Like, you should be able to explain to someone why you bought that project, why you believe in it. And if you can do that, then I think you're halfway there. Okay, just to end up, because we're bumping up on time here. Andy, it's a pleasure as always. We could probably do a multiple hour, and I think in the new year we're probably going to do that. But cool. We've talked a little bit about 2024 predictions. I'm going to ask for your prediction on two things. Yes or no answer. Will we see an ETF approval on January 10th?
Yes, or before.
Or before. We will see one on January 10th. Okay,
it's coming. I think.
Are we going to see rate hikes in the first two quarters, in your opinion?
No.
Or, sorry, rate reductions. Pardon me.
Reductions?
Fed rate reductions. You don't think we're going to see them?
I think hikes are more likely. I think I'm going to split the bull case and say they'll either hold it because they don't have a good rate. Like, if the economy's growing and inflation's kind of holding steady, why would they cut? Just hold steady. if we
Election-
really start,
election
election
year,
year.
that's the
But
only thing.
I don't. Yeah, I don't think the Fed likes Biden that much either. So I don't think they're going to do him any favors. So
I don't think it matters what Biden does. Bidenomics is not a winner at the election polls this year. It didn't do what everybody was hoping it would do. Anyways, finally, I think often people get concerned about the tax loss harvesting and some of the other things that often can happen in December. Are you concerned about that this year, or do you think everybody's just waiting to see what's going to happen in Jan?
I'm not that concerned. I think the halving narrative, the ETF narratives are a lot stronger than they've ever been. And you don't want to be caught off sides, right? If everybody thinks what's going to happen, you don't want to sell at 35,000 or I don't know what Bitcoin's at. And
40
then
or something
40 and then teleport to 60, which is fully in the realm of possibility. According, if you just go look at history, and when's that going to happen? Nobody knows. Yeah. So I think less so this year. I'm not worried about it, but I'm not ready. I'm not betting on the teleport anytime super soon. I could be wrong there because kind of just saw that too.
Well, to back up your point, in the last 3 months, Tether has minted $7 billion worth of Tether, which means, and we talked about this yesterday, so for anybody that watched, this is a repeat, but what that means is that $7 billion of fiat was custodied to issue new USDT. That is sidelined money, not necessarily new entrants. Could be participants from last cycle that got money out of the market. Fine. That is new money coming into the space. And I think we know on-chain analytics shows that a lot of it is being deployed. A lot of liquid funds are starting to take positions and establish positions again. We're seeing volumes are finally what you would expect when market making is relevant. All in all, I'm pretty positive. I think we're going to see some hiccups and setbacks and FUD and counter narratives and all of that shit, because that's always what happens. But I think I'm hoping to usher in a beautiful end to 2023, as most of us thought that was never going to be possible, but here we are. And I'm excited for 24. Andy,
my 24 prediction, my real one is nobody will heed our advice on being smart and being safe. A few people will, but I think the appetite for speculation because of income disparity and wealth distribution globally is greater than it was before. And everybody who missed last time isn't saying like, oh, right, I stayed out safely. They're saying like, I'm going to get in this time. Yeah. I'm going to get a little bit. And I think it's going to be absolutely insane.
If we had more time, we could probably parlay that into meme coins like Cock. I know we wanted to talk about it today, but maybe on the next episode. Andy, it's been a pleasure, man. Thank you a ton, as always, for joining us. This will 1 week we only have the rest of this week and Monday's episode before we take our winter season break from Go FUD Yourself. But in the new year, if I was a betting person, I would suspect we're going to have a few additional shows that we're going to add to the repertoire. And Andy's got some cool ideas and some others that I think we can maybe contribute to the overall success of Go FUD Yourself. So super excited about that. Excited to share some of that in the new year. Everybody have a beautiful day. Andy, with that, I say to you, Go FUD Yourself, my man.
Peace.
Later.